stop what you are doing and listen. Truly listen, with the absolute commitment of a man whose destiny depends upon the next word. For if you miss the profound truth I am about to reveal, if you allow your mind to drift for a single moment, you may walk through the remainder of your life as a beggar when you were born with the divine right to command. I address you today as a student of power, as an analyst of eternal law, and as a witness to the profound mechanisms that create millionaires and build empires. The chasm that separates the man who bends the world to his will from the man who is relentlessly bent by its circumstances is not luck, it is not talent, it is not even your starting position in life. The difference lies in the way he thinks, and more precisely, it lies in how he believes. I am not here to administer temporary adrenaline to your spirit. I am not here to offer entertainment or pleasant affirmations. I am here to awaken you to the most fundamental and terrifying truth. You possess within you, right now, the invisible, untamed power to call forth riches, position, and absolute command over your external conditions. But this power is gated. It will only be unleashed if you first seize absolute control over the one thing that controls everything else, your mind. This address is not merely a collection of philosophical anecdotes. It will not just speak to your ears. It is designed to pierce the veil of your current reality and instruct your very spirit. If you will grant me your unwavering attention, if you will allow me to guide you through the iron mechanisms of this law, you shall come to know that the invisible principles that govern all human achievement are not hiding from you. They are awaiting your belief, your obedience, and your fixed decision. I urge you, do not skip, do not drift, do not wander away. Hear every word, for I have built this speech as I built my life's work, with precision, with law, with spiritual power. This is not something you listen to once and discard. This is something you must return to daily, as you would return to the well of life itself. Listen to this speech not once but many times. Why do I insist upon repetition? Because repetition is the single, non-negotiable medium by which true, unconquerable faith is built. Faith is the spiritual master key. It is the core power that transforms a vague, fleeting desire into a solid, tangible plan of action. The average man waits for faith to appear like a sudden miracle. The master knows that faith is not found. It is manufactured. It is built, brick by deliberate brick, through the act of auto-suggestion. Your mind, particularly the powerful subconscious mind, is a loyal servant, but it is deaf to single commands. It does not respond to a single cry of passion. It responds only to frequency. It responds only to the thought, the image, the declaration that is brought before it again and again and again, backed by emotion. When you repeat these words, when you return to this message, you are not simply remembering a philosophy. You are performing the sacred, precise ritual of programming your own destiny. You are systematically burning away the old code of doubt, hesitation, and fear, and replacing it with the new, unbreakable code of certainty and command. Let these words seep into your subconscious until they no longer feel like mine, but like your own absolute truth. That is when the world will begin to bend, not to my authority, but to yours. The foundational difference between a life of command and a life of subservience lies entirely in dominion over thought. Most men allow their minds to function as a public thoroughfare, permitting every passing opinion, every fear-driven news headline, and every doubt whispered by a failed associate to wander in and set up camp. They believe they are thinking when they are merely reacting to the chaotic input of the world. The man who commands his life, however, treats his mind as a fortress. He is the absolute gatekeeper of his consciousness. If you are not yet wealthy, if you do not yet hold the position you desire, it is because you have permitted a thought to dominate your consciousness that says, "I do not deserve this," or "I am not capable of this." The universe is not judging you. It is merely reflecting the internal reality you have accepted. Your thoughts are not harmless. They are invisible, potent forces. They are the primary tools of creation. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your inner dialogue, these are the spiritual architecture of your external reality. If you fail to control them, they will control you, and they will build a life for you that mirrors their own chaotic, fearful nature. But when you seize control, when you inject definite belief into your consciousness, you become the master builder. This is the law of cause and effect applied to the mind. Thought is the cause. Circumstance is the effect. The power we speak of, the power to call forth riches and command life, is accessed through belief. But let us understand what true belief is. It is not tentative. It is not fragile. Belief is thought fused with intense emotion and unwavering decision. The great secret of all successful men is not that they were born lucky, but that they chose their thoughts with uncompromising intention. They did not wait for belief to arrive. They made belief a discipline. They understood that the law of the subconscious does not respond to work alone or to wishful thinking alone. It responds to conviction. It responds to the deep inner knowing that the result is already yours. Work without fixed belief is energy squandered. Belief without corresponding action is mere emotional self-indulgence. But belief fused with decision and driven by persistent action is the spiritual machinery of inevitable success. You must understand the profound, terrifying difference between a man who wishes and a man who believes. The man who wishes vaguely hopes the universe will be kind. The man who believes knows with certainty that the universe must comply with his command. The one waits for external proof, the other commits internally and forces the world to yield that proof. Now, steel your mind for the path ahead, for I am about to show you, in the most detailed and practical terms, how to use this power. We will show you that when you think as if nothing is impossible, when you believe as if the result is already yours, and when you act as if the world must obey your fixed aim, it will. The moment you accept this truth, the laws of success will no longer be hidden. They will be yours to command, and your life of command begins now. We commence with the immediate application of this power. We have acknowledged the supreme law, that the world awaits the command of the disciplined mind. You know that repetition is the necessary spiritual fuel. Now, we must turn to the immediate application of this truth. We must look into the core engine of your reality, the hidden power behind your thoughts, the unyielding mirror law of the universe. I ask you to confront a painful reality. If you do not yet possess the wealth, the influence, the health, or the position you desire, it is because you do not yet believe, deep in your inner core, that you absolutely deserve it. The world is not your enemy. The world is not a force of random cruelty or luck. The world is your mirror. It reflects not your vague, fleeting potential, but the undeniable image of your dominant fixed belief. If you permit your mind to carry chronic doubt, crippling hesitation, or paralyzing fear, even for a moment, the world will act as an obedient servant, returning to you circumstances and conditions precisely shaped by those very negative states of mind. It cannot do otherwise. But if you seize command and fill your consciousness with definite belief, fixed purpose, and unwavering decision, then you will compel the world to obey the shape of your magnificent vision. You must stop identifying as the victim of circumstance. You are, in every single moment of your life, the builder of it. But your most powerful tools are not visible to the eye. They are your thoughts, your beliefs, and your persistent, silent inner dialogue. A man becomes what he believes, for belief is thought fused with intense, burning emotion and an absolute, fixed decision. This is the first, non-negotiable law of the mind, the master formula for self-transformation. The great secret of all successful men, from the titans of industry to the greatest leaders, is not found in their external achievements, but in this internal discipline. They chose their thoughts with uncompromising intention. They did not leave the state of their belief to chance, to the morning news, or to the opinion of their neighbors. They made belief a discipline. Dominating thoughts, those fixed, constant thoughts about your definite chief aim, once mixed with powerful feeling and repeated with absolute conviction, descend into the vast, fertile field of the subconscious mind. And from that unseen depth, where all creation originates, those thoughts are systematically and forcefully transformed into their physical equivalent. That is not philosophy. That is not mystery. That is law. There is no magic in this process. The magic is in the absolute, iron discipline required to maintain the focus. You may toil for 12 grueling hours a day. You may struggle and sacrifice every resource you possess. But if your thoughts are vague, if your belief in the final result is weak, if your inner dialogue betrays your aim, then your outer results will always betray you. Why? Because the subconscious does not respond to brute effort. It responds only to conviction. It responds to the deep inner knowing that the result is already, spiritually, yours. That is why belief, when backed by definiteness and discipline, is infinitely more powerful than work alone. Work without fixed belief is energy squandered. Belief without corresponding action is mere emotional self-indulgence. But belief fused with decision is unstoppable power. We must now dissect the fatal flaw of the average man by establishing the vast chasm between a man who wishes and a man who believes. This difference is the line drawn between poverty and fortune. The man who wishes vaguely hopes the universe will be kind. He waits for external permission for the market to be right, for the timing to be perfect, for someone else to validate his idea. He looks to the world for proof before he commits his energy. The wishful man accepts his doubt as a legitimate form of caution, but in truth, wishing is weakness. The man who believes operates under an entirely different set of laws. He knows with certainty that the universe must comply with his command. He acts without external permission. He commits his energy and his life first and forces the world to yield the proof afterward. Belief supported by decision is an irresistible force. The world does not reward the man who waits for guarantees. It rewards the man who declares. You must abandon the vague, passive language of wishing. You must embrace the absolute language of commanding certainty. This commanding certainty is activated through the power of declaration, the principle I call act as if. I give you this ultimate commandment for your mind. I am the master of my belief. What I believe with emotion and act upon with decision becomes real. Say it aloud, not once, but every morning, every night, until your mind ceases to question its own divine authority. Until your speech, your posture, and your daily actions all declare it without the slightest hesitation. Speak it until the debilitating doubt is permanently gone. Speak it until you become what you speak. The tongue is the steering wheel of the subconscious, and belief is the engine. If you hesitate, the world hesitates. If you believe, it obeys. You do not need to chase success. You need only to chase certainty. When your inner belief becomes definite and fixed, your outer world becomes obedient. Men do not win by chance. They win by internal cause, a belief they absolutely refuse to question. You must now dismantle the resistance within you. Every excuse, every internal hesitation, every nagging fear that says it may not work for me is a lie you accepted from a world of defeated men. Tear it from your mind as you would tear weeds from your garden. Replace every mental hesitation with this uncompromising phrase: it is mine because I have decided. To act as if nothing is impossible is not a flight into fantasy. It is the fundamental spiritual law of creation. The Creator did not give you the magnificent gift of imagination so you could merely pretend to be successful. He gave you imagination so you could preview the future before it arrives. And belief is the mechanism that makes the future arrive precisely on schedule. Act as if the wealth is already yours, and the means to assemble it will begin to appear. Act as if the position is already yours, and your mind will gather the necessary knowledge and allies to achieve it. What you consistently believe and act upon with feeling and definiteness must externalize in the world of form. The world does not resist your belief. It responds to it. Conditions are waiting for you to believe. You must become the change you wish to see. Speak differently. Walk with conviction. Carry yourself as if you are already what you seek to become. Begin now. Write your definite chief aim. State it aloud with power. Read it morning and night. Back it with feeling. Command your inner world, and your outer world will follow. You are not small. You are not weak. You are a master builder, and your belief is your hammer. Use it. Shape your destiny with it. Declare, I am the man who makes the impossible. Submit and I act like it. This inner certainty is the final preparation for the greatest power known to man, the power of faith. For belief is the concept, but faith is the force, the V8 engine of the mind, that will now command your external circumstances. We have established that your outer world is merely the mirror of your inner dominant belief. You know that thought is the cause and circumstance is the effect. But now, we must discuss the fuel that transforms mere thought into a dynamic, commanding force. We must discuss faith. Faith is not a passive thing. It is not a soft whisper in the dark or a timid hope for a better future. That is weakness masquerading as virtue. Faith is the mind's iron declaration that what I see within me shall become what surrounds me. Faith is power. It is fire. It is the unstoppable force that drives men to move mountains, not because they possess external proof it can be done, but because they have first issued the supreme, internal decision that it must be done. Faith is the spiritual substance by which every great achievement has ever been built. I teach you that faith is a state of mind which may be induced by autosuggestion. This is the vital, non-negotiable key to all mastery. Faith is not given to you. You do not wait for it to descend upon you like a miracle. You manufacture it. You forge it, day by persistent day, by what you speak, what you feel, and what you repeat into the deep furnace of your subconscious mind. Faith is the master chemistry of the mind. It is the spiritual elixir that gives life to thought. Without this elixir, your definite aim is lifeless, inert, and powerless. With it, your thought transforms into a spiritual command that penetrates all resistance and overcomes all temporary setbacks. Let me make this process brutally plain. You do not wait for faith to appear. You do not waste precious time begging the world to give you evidence before you believe. That is not faith. That is indecision dressed up as logic. The law of faith operates in reverse of common sense. You decide to believe. You speak your belief aloud. You act upon it. You live it. And only then, relentlessly, does the feeling of certainty begin to solidify. And once that feeling comes, it must be held, intensified, and directed, like a laser, toward your definite chief aim. That is the precise method by which men build financial empires from a position of absolute nothingness. To grasp the magnitude of this power, we must look to the definitive example of Henry Ford and the development of the V8 engine, a story that perfectly illustrates the law of faith over all external limitations. Ford was not trained in engineering. He was not certified by academia. He was not backed by the powerful, skeptical financial men of his era. Yet, he conceived an idea that was, by all technical accounts of the time, impossible. The V8 engine block cast in a single piece of steel. He issued the command to his engineering team, build it. His own experts, the men who possessed the specialized knowledge, returned to him and said, Mr. Ford, the design is excellent, but it cannot be done. Our technology does not permit casting an 8-cylinder engine block in one piece. What was Ford's response? Did he negotiate? Did he compromise? Did he allow their logic to sway his conviction? Absolutely not. He simply replied with the iron certainty of a man who lives by the law of belief. Produce it anyway. Start over, and do not stop until the block is a single piece. For months, the team toiled. They returned again and again with failure after failure, and each time, Ford issued the same unwavering command, produce it. Why did the world bend to Ford? Because Ford never bent his belief. He did not compromise with doubt. He did not negotiate with the consensus of logic. He saw the engine first, fully formed, in his mind, and he held that image with absolute faith. He issued the command from within, and he held to it without retreat. That is faith. Not faith in others, not faith in systems, but absolute faith in the power of his own thought, backed by his fixed decision. Ford did not wonder if the engine could be built. He acted as if it had already been done. And so, it was. The power of acting as if is not mere fantasy. It is the highest form of spiritual law and preparation. When you move, speak, and carry yourself as the man who already possesses the goal, you immediately train your powerful subconscious mind to reject all external evidence that contradicts your internal command. You are not pretending to be powerful. You are programming yourself for power. You are forming within your inner world a belief so strong, so consistent, and so emotional that your entire being begins to align itself, forcefully, with the desired result. This is how you seize command of circumstances. Let no man tell you that faith is idle or passive. Faith works harder than fear ever could, but it does not toil in the dark of confusion. It moves with the light of vision. Faith sees the invisible. It speaks of the unseen. It walks into tomorrow, fully clothed in today's confidence. The man who walks in faith does not require applause, external proof, or constant reassurance. He acts from inner law, and the universe obeys him because he first obeys his own fixed aim. The great tragedy of most men is not that they aim too high and miss, but that they never aim at all. They wait for signs, for guarantees, for applause from others before they commit. But the man who possesses faith has already committed internally and therefore has no need for external consent. He acts with conviction because he knows the world does not shape belief. Belief shapes the world. Faith is built by repetition. It is strengthened by decision. And it is proven by the monument of results it produces. Show me a man who lives by great faith, and I will show you a man who commands extraordinary results. For faith is not invisible to the world. It leaves evidence. It leaves monuments. It leaves wealth. These are not the source of faith. They are its result. You must now perform the most crucial duty of the master. You must fiercely guard your faith. In the beginning, faith is fragile. It is a flickering flame that must be protected from the violent winds of doubt and external negativity. Your faith must be protected from the criticisms of the faithless, the cutting sarcasm of the mediocre, and the doubts of the drifting masses. You must not share your sacred vision with those who are blind to it. Walk alone if you must, but walk always in absolute belief. Speak your powerful affirmations in private if the world mocks them in public, but you must speak them. You must feel them. Build your magnificent castle entirely in thought and hold it there, fixed and unyielding, until the material stone begins to appear in the world of form. This is the ultimate confrontation. You will never possess what you are afraid to claim. If you fear to speak your definite aim, you will never build it. If you hesitate to believe it, you will never achieve it. The man who believes he has, even before the proof appears, shall receive that which others said was impossible. Now, take up your definite chief aim once more. Read it aloud, twice daily, with absolute clarity. Close your eyes and see it. Feel the texture of the victory in your hands. Walk through the corridors of your mind and sit at the table of your future self. Greet him. Shake his hand. Hear his voice. Act as if it is already done, and it shall be done. Your mastery begins with this unyielding, manufactured force of faith. We move now to the final, necessary confrontation, transforming this belief into the reality that the world insists is impossible. We have moved beyond the chaos of wishing. We have forged our belief into an iron discipline. Now, we must confront the final, imposing fortress that stands between you and your definite chief aim. The fortress built entirely of one word: impossible. I declare to you with the absolute certainty of an immutable law, there is no such thing as impossible to the mind that believes. Impossibility is not a condition of the world. It is not a fixed, external decree imposed by nature or physics. Impossibility is a confession. It is the direct admission of the man who has voluntarily surrendered dominion over his own thoughts. When a man says, "It cannot be done," what he is truly declaring is, "I do not believe I possess the power, the faith, or the persistence to do it." And because belief is the absolute gatekeeper to action, that man never begins, he never builds, he never breaks through. He is defeated in the complete silence of his own unchallenged thought. The world is not shaped by real objective limits. It is shaped entirely by the limits that men accept. And these accepted limitations are not natural laws. They are lies, inherited, poisonous doubts passed down from the failures of other men who surrendered their power and now pass their cynicism forward as if it were gospel truth. But I say to you, the mind of man, when fixed upon a definite object and backed by unwavering faith, must bring forth that which it conceives. For there is no idea that cannot be done. There are only men who doubt it. We must now understand precisely how the word impossible subverts the vast, unlimited power of your own subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind has no sense of humor. It does not mock you when you speak of extraordinary greatness. It does not question whether your goals are too large or too ambitious. It does not evaluate logic or current feasibility. It simply accepts whatever you give it. If you feed it repetition backed by emotion, it obeys. And critically, it obeys with the same ruthless efficiency, whether that repetition is belief or fear, courage or doubt, wealth or poverty. It accepts and it immediately begins to create your circumstances accordingly. When you allow the word impossible to enter your mental lexicon and take hold, you are effectively sending a stop work order to the greatest creative engine in the universe. You are telling your subconscious mind, "Halt, the law does not apply here. Do not seek the resources. Do not attract the allies. Do not arrange the circumstances." And your subconscious, the loyal servant, obeys the command to stop. You are defeated not by the size of the challenge, but by the weakness of your internal command. You must make up your mind, once and for all, that you are done negotiating with impossibility. To banish this debilitating thought, we turn to the ultimate example of unrelenting belief, Thomas Edison. Edison, the man who quite literally lit the world, did not discover the electric lamp because he was the most educated, the wealthiest, or the luckiest. He possessed one thing, and it was enough: a burning, definite chief aim, and an absolute, unyielding belief that the light existed and must be brought forth by his will. His journey was a relentless, grueling march through temporary defeat. For 10,000 attempts, he met failure. Yet, he never once accepted the diagnosis of the world. Do you understand the monumental will required to sustain that effort? 10,000 trials, 10,000 obstacles, 10,000 opportunities for the mind to surrender to the verdict of impossible. And yet, Edison refused. He famously reclassified his entire journey, declaring, "I have not failed. I have found 10,000 ways that will not work." With each so-called failure, his belief did not diminish. It deepened. He acted as if the light was already his, already a physical fact waiting to be revealed. And his mind, relentless, found a way to make the imagined real. This is not luck. This is not fate. This is the spiritual law in motion. The persistent application of fixed belief will inevitably bend physical reality to its will. You may not be an inventor, but the principle is the same. If you hold your aim with the same intensity that Edison held his, and you believe in its certain arrival before the world can see it, the world will have no choice but to shape itself around your vision. You do not need 10 talents. You need one belief, and that belief, when fused with persistence, will bend the world to your plan. Let this affirmation now become your command, a direct counter-order to every past failure. I command the impossible to submit. I speak what is to be, and I act until it is so. Now, I must issue the gravest warning. This power you are forging is constantly under attack by thieves that seek to break your belief. They are the 6 ghosts of fear. And if you do not know their names, they shall live in you without your knowledge. constantly whispering the lie of impossible. The two most devastating to the man pursuing wealth and greatness are the fear of criticism and the fear of poverty. The fear of criticism paralyzes your expression. It causes you to hesitate before speaking your truth. It makes you value the shallow opinion of the crowd over the clear vision of your soul. A man who fears what others will say can never fully speak or build his vision. He walks in the shadows of other men's opinions. He becomes small, not because the world made him small, but because he surrendered his voice. You must reject this fear. Every great leader walked through the valley of criticism before reaching the mountain of success. The world does not cheer the man at the start. It doubts him. But if he persists, the world will stand in awe of what he has built. The fear of poverty is the most common and crippling. This fear assassinates initiative. It whispers, "What if you fail? Play it safe. Preserve instead of pursue." But wealth does not come to the timid or the cautious. It comes to the bold. The man who fears poverty shall always serve the man who fears nothing. You must train yourself to move in the face of fear. You must feel it rise and act anyway. You must hear its voice and speak your affirmation louder. If you entertain these fears even for a moment, you interrupt the vital current of faith. You must watch your thoughts as a soldier watches the gate. You must speak only that which reinforces your power, for the subconscious listens. It listens always. It hears your casual words, your jokes, your complaints, and whatever you repeat, it accepts and builds. So you must speak with absolute intention. You must declare the impossible as inevitable. Do not say I hope. Do not say I wish. Say I am. Say it is done. Say this is mine. And you must immediately act in accordance. Dress as if. Move as if. Spend your time as if. Believe as if. You do this not because the evidence is externally available, but because you are actively planting the evidence. You are laying down spiritual cause before the physical effect has time to appear. This is how the man who believes lives. He does not wait. He creates. The man who believes does not consult the shallow opinions of others. He does not measure his power by the standards of the world. He measures it by the laws of thought which obey belief and persistency, not mere pedigree. You are not what others say you are. You are what you decide to believe and what you consistently prove through action. Every delay is a test of belief. Every obstacle is an invitation to double your faith. If you do not turn back, you will reach the result. For the world has no defense against a man who never quits. Go now. Face your doubts, banish them, and replace them with declarations of belief. Look at your vision with new eyes, and refuse to blink, refuse to shrink, refuse to second guess. Say aloud, "Nothing is impossible to me, for I believe without retreat, and I act without fear." This is your final preparation. With the lie of impossible shattered, you are now ready to engage in the highest form of mastery, the mental ritual that compels reality to conform to your image. You have witnessed how faith destroyed the lie of impossible for Edison. That same power is yours, but it requires continuous structured guidance. To ensure you never miss the next critical law, the practical ritual that transfers this belief directly into reality, and to access the foundational wisdom of Napoleon Hill's philosophy daily, I demand this one act. Subscribe to this channel now and activate the notification bell. Do not skip the wisdom that builds your future. Act now and formalize your commitment to the law of belief. You have crushed the lie of impossible, and you have committed to faith. Now, we move from the internal architecture of belief to the external, visible enforcement of that belief. We move to the core operational procedure for mastery, the mental ritual that changes reality, the unyielding act as if principle. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are prepared to receive. And preparation does not begin in your bank account, your resume, or your external environment. Preparation begins in your thoughts, and it is demonstrated through your actions. The man who waits for circumstances to change before he changes his internal behavior will be perpetually waiting for a ship that will never dock. But the man who changes himself first, who acts as if the future has already arrived, commands conditions to obey his example. This is the spiritual principle that governs all manifestation. Act as if it were already done, and it shall be. You must conduct yourself in thought, in speech, and in every measurable movement like the man who already possesses the result. This is not self-deception. This is conscious creation. Every man who ever achieved greatness walked amongst the crowd, long before the world noticed him, thinking, believing, and speaking as if his name was already carved into history. It was not the world that eventually crowned him. It was his unwavering conviction, his act as if principle, that first demanded the crown. Your mind is a creature of habit. The subconscious mind, being without a will of its own, follows the habits you assign to it with absolute, terrifying loyalty. If you act as the poor man, it will diligently work to deliver you poverty. If you act as the victim, it will immediately create more injustice and struggle to support that chosen identity. But if you act as the leader, the producer, the master of your fate, then your subconscious will instantly begin to attract the ideas, the people, and the circumstances that exactly match that powerful image. The first, non-negotiable step in this mental ritual is the daily, precise programming of your definite chief aim. You must write your aim, not as a tentative hope for the future, but as a current, absolute reality. Do not say, I hope to become a millionaire in 5 years. Say, I am a millionaire by date. Do not write, I wish to have this position. Write, I now possess this position. Make your words bold, definite, and unshakable. Then, you must take that statement, the highest declaration of your will, and you must read it aloud twice each day. First, in the morning. Read it immediately upon rising. Read it with fire, with intense emotion, and with the full vision of the accomplished fact. By doing this, you seize command of your mind before the day's chaos can corrupt it. You set the unwavering tone for your entire day, ensuring that every subsequent action is aligned with your command. Second, in the evening, just before retiring, read it again with equal intensity. As you transition into sleep, you hand your powerful subconscious mind a direct, clear command to work upon while you sleep. This is the moment you dispatch your inner forces to arrange circumstances, attract ideas, and solve problems in the quiet hours of the night. You must see yourself already in possession of the result. That vision must live in your imagination, not as a random thought, but as a disciplined, daily mental ritual. This is the continuous, systematic act of training your subconscious to accept and execute a new identity. Your old self, the hesitant, fearful man filled with doubt, must be actively evicted, and your new self, the commanding master who achieves the impossible, must be invited in with every single repetition of belief. This ritual is not about the mere recitation of words. It is about becoming the man described in those words. You must begin to walk into your day as that man. You must speak to others with his posture. You must carry his tone, his powerful rhythm, his decisive spirit. When you speak of your aim, do so as if you are unveiling a fact, not nervously requesting permission for it to exist. Act as if the ink on your destiny has already dried. To grasp the magnitude of this identity shift, we look to the principles applied by Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie did not build the colossal steel industry merely by managing factories. He built it by mastering the law of belief and applying the act-as-if principle to everyone around him. Carnegie did not wait for his associates to prove themselves before treating them as leaders. He treated every associate as if they were already great men. He held an image of competence, power, and high performance in his mind and projected it onto his partners and managers. And by doing so, by acting as if their inherent greatness was already a fact, they were compelled to rise, to stretch, and to match the powerful image he held of them. This is the silent, profound law in action. When you act as if something is true long enough, it must become true. The ritual of morning and evening suggestion is the furnace in which your own identity is reforged. If you maintain this rhythm, it becomes your inner music, and it will override all previous noise of fear and mediocrity. Let us make this sacred declaration. I conduct myself in thought, speech, and action as if I already possess the result I seek, for what you declare repeatedly becomes law in the land of the subconscious. And once that law is written, the entire machinery of your mind begins to move in its service. Ideas emerge, your personal energy increases, and favorable coincidences appear. Why? Because you have fundamentally changed your vibration of identity. This transformation does not require the approval of others. You do not need applause to act as if you are powerful. You do not need titles to behave with absolute authority. You do not need wealth to speak like a builder of fortunes. These things come after the behavior, not before. Your actions must lead, your emotions must follow, and the world must then respond. Let us speak of the most visible difference, behavior. The man who acts as if he is defeated, carries slouched shoulders, avoids eye contact, speaks in uncertain, apologetic tones, and hides from challenge. That behavior is a direct reflection of a weak belief. The man who acts as if he is victorious, however, stands tall, meets eyes directly, speaks with calm command, and walks toward the struggle with eagerness. These are not random traits. They are the physical manifestation of an absolute belief. You must choose which version of yourself you will breathe into being. What if doubt remains? What if fear clings? Then act anyway, for action repeated will strangle doubt. There is no greater antidote to uncertainty than motion. You cannot wait to feel confident before you behave with conviction. That is a misunderstanding of the law. You must earn confidence through performance. Each time you consciously act in faith, your mind collects evidence that you are who you say you are. Soon, a profound shift will occur. A new identity will emerge, one that no longer plays small, one that no longer fears the opinions of the world. You will begin to carry your purpose with quiet dignity. You will speak with the authority of belief, and the world will begin to treat you differently. Not because it changed, but because you did. You are not here to impress others. You are here to express the full potential of the man within, and that man is waiting. He does not require more information. He requires repetition. He requires discipline. He requires a ritual of thought, of speech, of posture, and through that ritual, he will rise to command. Now I say again, write your aim. Speak it aloud twice daily with emotion, with vision, with certainty. Act as if it is already yours. Conduct yourself, in every measurable way, in the image of the man who has already received it. This is not fiction. This is the formula. Thousands have used it. You shall now be counted among them. With this unwavering act-as-if principle established, you are ready to engage the final, powerful law of association, the mastermind, which multiplies your individual belief into an irresistible collective force. You have accepted the act-as-if principle, and you have embraced the daily mental ritual that is forging your new identity. You have claimed dominion over your individual thought, but the man who seeks command must recognize that while individual thought is the necessary seed, collective thought multiplied and amplified is the final, irresistible force that removes all barriers. We begin with the internal foundation, the subconscious field. There is but one thing over which you have absolute, unchallengeable control, and that is your own mind. This profound truth is the cornerstone of all achievement. You may not control the decisions of men. You may not control the chaotic tides of the economy, but you control your thoughts. And by mastering that internal dominion, you come to powerfully influence all that is external to you. All else in your life will relentlessly follow the pattern of your dominant belief. Your subconscious mind is the silent, tireless builder of your circumstances. It is the unseen, ever-present hand shaping your conditions. But it is not a creative force on its own. It must be directed. It does not originate thought, it receives it. Critically, it does not distinguish between truth and falsehood, between wealth and poverty, between victory and defeat. It acts upon whatever you impress upon it through repetition and intense emotional feeling. Think now of your subconscious as a vast, fertile field, the most productive soil on earth. If you plant thorns, the seeds of doubt, the lies of fear, the limitation passed down by others, those shall take root, multiply, and utterly overrun the garden of your life. But if you plant strength, purpose, clarity, and the absolute conviction of your success, and water them daily with the conviction of your ritual, then abundance must rise. The field does not argue. It does not discriminate. It obeys. Your job is not to beg the soil to grow. Your job is to sow deliberately and to ruthlessly weed out the seeds of confusion and fear. The subconscious receives and responds best to commands spoken aloud, repeated daily, and backed with a definite, white-hot emotion. This is why I have insisted upon the daily ritual of writing and reading your definite chief aim. It is not a ritual for ritual's sake. It is a precise programming instruction to your inner world. The mind, once charged with definite thought, begins to immediately seek every opportunity, every connection, and every circumstance that aligns with that commanding instruction. But the law of the mind dictates that two minds fixed on a common purpose are exponentially more powerful than one. Herein lies the profound power of the mastermind alliance. When two or more minds are brought together in absolute harmony, fixed upon a common, defined objective, a third mind, a greater, stronger, composite mind is formed. This is not philosophy. This is demonstrable spiritual principle. The minds of great men are made infinitely greater through purposeful association with other minds that share their belief, their clarity, and their burning desire. The mastermind is the ultimate furnace of faith. In this alliance, individual belief is not merely added, it is multiplied. The energy, the ideas, and the solutions generated by this composite mind far exceed the sum total of what the members could achieve alone. Why? Because the individual weaknesses of one mind are instantaneously compensated for by the strengths and absolute conviction of the others. The mastermind becomes a collective subconscious field fixed upon one purpose. It generates a current of belief so strong that external barriers, setbacks, and doubt cannot possibly resist it. To grasp the practical financial magnitude of this principle, we look to the magnificent example of Charles M. Schwab, one of the brightest examples of applied belief and the mastermind law. Schwab was not born into wealth. He did not inherit power, but he carried within him an iron belief that he could rise and lead. He aligned himself with the unparalleled vision of Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie did not select Schwab merely for his talent. Carnegie recognized his spirit, his definiteness, his absolute visible belief in his own power. Schwab acted and believed as if he already commanded men, and soon he did. Carnegie placed him in charge of the greatest steel operation in the nation, not because of his years, but because he had the spirit of command forged in belief. Schwab's mind, fused with Carnegie's, produced plans, strategies, and innovations that neither could have conceived alone. The synergy was absolute. The power of the mastermind was the furnace, and their collective, unwavering faith was the unstoppable fuel. Together, through this harmonious alliance of belief, they built the modern empire of steel. This is not the result of mere networking. This is the law of mastermind in action. Now listen carefully, for this is the most critical warning for maintaining the mastermind's power. Your subconscious mind will relentlessly mirror the dominant belief of those you associate with most often. You are the sum total of your closest associations. If you keep company with chronic doubters, their doubt will subtly and tragically poison your subconscious field. If you habitually walk with critics and cynics, their negativity will invisibly cloud your inner vision and dilute your power. But if you form a mastermind alliance with those who believe, those who affirm, those who pursue with relentless purpose, then your belief will multiply into an irresistible force. You must therefore choose your influences as a king chooses his counsel. This is not a matter of preference, this is a mandate for survival. Let no man or woman into your inner circle who does not support your definite chief aim. Let no conversation enter your ears that weakens your conviction. Let no habitual passive voice dwell near your subconscious if it does not speak of growth, power, and purpose. You are the gatekeeper. You must guard your mind as the treasury of your destiny, ruthlessly protecting the mastermind's collective belief. Repeat this affirmation aloud, and let it be the sword that guards your inner circle. My subconscious receives only commands of power, purpose, and triumph. It obeys my dominant desire and the collective will of my mastermind. If you do not yet have a mastermind alliance, your immediate duty is to form one. Find one man, one woman, or a few who believe as you do. Meet regularly. Speak only of victory. Review your aims with the intensity of a general reviewing his strategy. Eliminate all idle speech, weak talk, and fear-driven thoughts. For in such an alliance, you do not merely increase your intellect, you multiply your influence. And if you cannot yet find such men or women in the living world, then walk with the minds of those who left their wisdom in books. Read the words of the great builders, the bold leaders, the uncompromising visionaries. Let their ideas become your silent counsel until you stand strong enough to gather the living around you. You are never truly alone if you walk with powerful thought. Remember this final, absolute truth of the mastermind law. The subconscious mind does not create, it responds. And when multiple minds are fixed on a common definite aim, they generate a current of belief too strong for any barrier to resist. If your aim is fixed, your faith is absolute, and your alliance is harmonious, then the world must yield. You have the seed of belief. You have the mastermind to water it. Now, we proceed to the final step of mastery, eliminating the single enemy that instantly destroys all belief and all alliance, the enemy of indecision. You have forged your belief. You have built your mastermind alliance. You have cleansed your inner world, and you stand ready to command. But there is one final, insidious enemy that can destroy all of your preparation in a single moment. It is the enemy that feeds on delay and paralyzes the will: indecision. Indecision is the seedbed of failure. It is the breeding ground of fear, hesitation, and drift. Where there is no decision, there is no direction. And where there is no direction, there can be no victory. A man who cannot decide will forever bow to the man who can. For life favors the bold, not the reckless, but the definite. And decision is the first essential act of the definite man. Doubt has no power in your mind until you feed it, and the only food it thrives upon is indecision. The moment you delay a necessary choice, you have already begun your spiritual retreat. You may attempt to dress your delay in careful, intellectual language. You may call it prudence, or wisdom, or careful caution. But your subconscious mind knows the absolute truth. It feels your hesitation and mirrors it immediately. The longer you stall, the deeper the roots of fear grow into your consciousness. The world waits for no man. It responds to decision and instantly recoils from confusion. Faith cannot operate in a house that is divided against itself. You cannot claim to believe in your definite chief aim while simultaneously postponing your commitment to the action required to achieve it. The man who says, "I am waiting for a sign," will never act. The man who says, "I must think about it for another week," is already being ruled and defeated by fear. Decision is not born of perfect clarity. Decision is born of inner authority. You must say, "This is my path," and walk it with conviction, even while the road ahead is not yet fully visible. We must ruthlessly examine the terrifying cost of indecision. Every single time you hesitate, you train your mind to distrust itself. Your subconscious mind, the loyal, powerful servant, watches your delay and begins to believe you are not serious about your commands. It immediately withdraws its energy. It ceases to arrange circumstances. The crucial flow of ideas stops. Your will begins to weaken, and soon the window of opportunity that once stood wide open has slammed shut, not by fate, but by your own chronic indecision. Contrast this profound loss with the raw, immediate power of decision. When you decide, your energy instantly returns, your mind sharpens, the world shifts in your favor. You immediately begin to notice the tools, the allies, and the chance encounters that you completely missed while your mind was consumed by doubt. Life rewards the man who has made up his mind, for nature itself abhors a vacuum and does not permit waste, and no greater waste exists than a mind divided against itself. To understand the supreme, unyielding power of decision, we turn once more to the defining example of Abraham Lincoln, a man who faced personal chaos and national disintegration, yet stood immovable. In his youth, Lincoln knew the pain of failure, the sting of ridicule, and the heavy burden of profound loneliness. But amidst all this turbulence, he made a quiet, definitive, moral decision. He would leave a mark upon the world. He would stand for the highest principle. That decision, once made, governed his every subsequent step. Lincoln was not perfect. He did not always see the way clearly, but he had decided, and that fixed decision gave birth to one of the greatest destinies in history. It was not Lincoln's eloquence alone that gave him power. It was his moral conviction, his inner certainty that right must be done and that he would bear the weight of doing it. When others doubted the course of the Civil War, when his own generals faltered, when the Union trembled, Lincoln stood steady. Decision makes a man absolutely immovable, not because the storms do not rage, but because he is rooted in belief. This is your call now. You must cease wandering between the possibilities. Choose your aim, fix it, commit. You do not need perfect plans before you begin. You need only the will to begin. The plans will unfold as you move. The doors will open as you walk. But the world will not kneel to the man who has not first stood for himself. Let this be your affirmation, your internal counterorder to doubt. I decide. I act. I believe. I do not waver. And the world follows the man who does not flinch. Speak it when you feel unsure. Speak it when fear whispers. Speak it until your heart believes it and your steps embody it. There is an invincible power in the man who has made up his mind, and that power calls forth everything required to fulfill the decision. I remind you again, the greatest enemy of progress is not failure. It is doubt. Failure teaches, failure refines, but doubt paralyzes. It leaves you cold and motionless, staring at the door, but never turning the handle. You must choose now. Will you be a man of waiting or a man of movement? When you look upon your definite chief aim, do not entertain questions. Do not wonder if you are worthy you are. Do not ask if it is possible it is. The only question that matters is, will you decide to pursue it with everything you have? And once you answer that question with absolute, internal certainty, every other question instantly fades away. Understand this immutable law. Decision burns bridges. It removes the option of retreat. The man who succeeds does so because he has surgically eliminated the possibility of turning back. When the mind knows there is no escape, when the bridges behind are burned, it summons strength previously unknown. You have far more power in you than you have ever used. But that power will not awaken while you are still choosing between safety and destiny. So I instruct you, write your decision, speak it, commit to it in action. Move now, not tomorrow, not when the fear fades. Move while the fear trembles in your shadow. Move while doubt stands frozen behind you. For the very moment you move with conviction, you will feel a colossal strength you forgot you had. You will feel truly alive again, and the world will see it. They will sense the fire behind your eyes, the certainty in your step, the resonance in your voice, and they will follow. For men follow clarity. They follow decisiveness. They follow those who know precisely where they are going. You are such a man. If you decide to be, you need no permission, no external validation, only the will to speak, to move, to persist. You are the master, and doubt is the servant that must be dismissed. With the power of decision now absolute, you are ready to make your final, powerful statement to the world, the declaration of your new identity and your commitment to the law. You have crushed indecision. You have committed to the law of fixed purpose. Now, we stand at the final decree, the ultimate action that transforms your internal transformation into an external, undeniable reality. This is the final command. Speak and walk as the person you demand to become. Before you can assume this new mantle of power, you must first eliminate the final, subtle poison that seeks to cling to your spirit: fear. I tell you plainly, fear is not real. It has no substance. It is not solid. It is mist. It is vapor. It is merely the smoke of the mind, a byproduct of indecision and lack of faith. But fear becomes a concrete wall to the man who believes in it, and it becomes a suffocating prison to the man who obeys it. Fear has kept more men poor, small, and silent than poverty, failure, or death ever could. The successful man learned to think and act in spite of fear. The unsuccessful man waits passively for fear to vanish before he moves. And fear does not vanish. It must be defied. Your thoughts are commands. Your words are blueprints. Your movements are decrees. Every act of speech, posture, and action sends a signal, not only to the world but to your own subconscious, affirming who you are becoming. The world does not respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being. I ask you now to confront the truth. Who are you commanding yourself to become? If you still speak as the man who doubts, the man who delays, the man who waits for permission, then no matter what magnificent goals you write, your life will mirror that weak identity. But if you now speak with certainty, walk with authority, and carry the bearing of one who already possesses the outcome, then life begins to conform to the shape of your belief. Identity is not discovered. It is declared and repeatedly enforced into existence. Every morning you rise, you are given the opportunity to assume the role. Not the role of who you were yesterday, but the role of who you are deciding to be today. You must now speak only the language of the man who has achieved. You must move like him, think like him, rise like him, and work like him. The inner becomes the outer. The imagined becomes the manifested. The assumed becomes the actual. There is an eternal law governing this transformation. I called it the cosmic habit force. It is the unseen power that takes your repeated thoughts and consistent actions and molds them into iron habits, and those habits, in turn, mold your destiny. The man who consistently acts as if he is powerful, even when he feels uncertain, begins to become powerful, not because he fakes strength, but because he practices it into permanence. This law does not discriminate. It works for weakness or for strength. Your consistent rituals decide which force will shape you. This is why you must no longer wait for external circumstances to confirm your identity. You must lead them. Speak not as a man who is trying. Speak as a man who has arrived. Do not say, I will become. Say, I am. Do not ask for permission. Give yourself the order, for your subconscious does not question. It obeys. And when you begin to speak, walk, and move as your future self, your mind cannot distinguish the difference between the vision and the reality. So, it builds accordingly. Let me show you a powerful historical example of this principle in action. Woodrow Wilson. Wilson began his career relatively hidden in the shadows of academia, unknown to the world stage. But within him burned a fixed vision not of who he was, but of who he must become. He began to act, to speak, and to lead with the gravity and certainty as though he were already destined for the highest post in the land. And though he began in obscurity, his self-declared identity governed his entire journey. He became president not because he was randomly chosen, but because he chose himself first and consistently maintained the posture of the commander. This is your great lesson. The world believes in the man who first believes in himself. When you carry yourself with the gravity of purpose, the steadiness of decision, and the bearing of certainty, others will immediately begin to adjust to your presence. Doors will open, eyes will turn, opportunities will appear. But these are not causes, they are effects. The cause is always identity. The cause is always belief acted upon. So, I command you now, write your identity. As you would write your definite chief aim, write the specific traits, the exact conduct, the decisive spirit of the man you are becoming. Describe his speech, his courage, his self-control, his decisiveness, and begin, without a single moment of delay, to embody him today in small steps, in silent practices, in large declarations, and let that new version of you become so familiar that the old, weak self fades completely into history. Repeat this final, powerful affirmation. I am what I have decided to become. I act as if nothing is impossible, because nothing is when I believe. Say it until your voice carries it with ease. Say it until your shoulders rise with strength. Say it until your habits begin to match your words. For the world will not believe it until you do. But once you do, there is no force in heaven or on earth that can deny you. You are not your past failures. You are not your doubts. You are not your setbacks. You are a being of thought, faith, and will. You are capable of transforming your world by transforming your identity. And you do so not by waiting, but by deciding, by repeating, by acting every hour, every day. The voice you now use must be firm. The steps you now take must be certain. The choices you now make must be final. For the law does not respond to wishful men, it responds to those who walk in belief. There is no future reward without present identity. There is no crown waiting for you unless you bear the weight of it first, in silence, in your daily conduct. But once you do, the shift is complete. You will speak and others will listen. You will act and results will follow. You will command and life will respond, not because it is owed to you, but because you earned it in thought, word, and action. And so we close with power. Begin this very day. Assume the identity. Read your aim. Speak your affirmations. Act without doubt. Reject fear. Step into the role. And never again remove the crown from your head. This world will bend. Not to the loudest, not to the richest, not to the fastest, but to the most believing. Let that be you. Let that be the man you are now and forever. The law has been revealed. Your final act of obedience is to claim this power and spread its truth. Subscribe to this channel now and share this message with one person who desperately needs to move from wishing to believing. Let this wisdom be the start of your new identity. Act now. Do not delay. Become the law. The man who walks in belief has now arrived. Your reign begins today.